And we're live. What's going on,
Yeah.
everyone? Welcome to the Purple Pill Pod. We got a special little pre-show going on tonight. I got Pursuing the Truth podcast, and then did you have something too? Did you, or did you want to plug yourself in really quick?
I'm Levi's niece. I've been on a few of his podcasts before.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm gonna plug in all their information and description later on after the show. I think I already have them plugged into the title right now. But yeah, we're just gonna have a clean little debate tonight where we're just gonna talk about relationships, talk about what he talks about on his show a little bit and how it differs to mine, and we'll have his niece's input too, so we're not just a biased two men talking about something.
That was
What's
the
up?
whole point in bringing her here.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Mitrok already, boy,
Yeah,
already with the
man.
dollar, man. I appreciate you just already coming in and doing that, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate you,
thanks,
man.
Mike.
So yeah, let's go ahead and start. The one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about just to start to learn about both of y'all, because really something that kind of pushes me to do what I'm doing is very secular Christian religious point of view, I guess. So I want to know how strong y'all are in y'all's religious faith, like in your Christianity, because I know sometimes you talk about that. You can go ahead first.
Yeah, for me, my relationship with God is the most important because my establishment in dating, in the relationship world, at any level of relationship, is that I want to establish relationships based on that I carry out a sense of honesty and integrity in the relationship, whether that's a friend, sister, brother, whoever it is, future girlfriend, establish that foundation because then it gives me something to go off of instead of relying on my own ego. I'm focused on going into that relationship completely selflessly because I would rather somebody know their value beyond me being the most important in a relationship. So when I talk about my relationship with God, it's the foundation to everything and how I live my life, how I carry out myself professionally, personally, and how I develop in relationships.
Okay, and also go ahead and just let everybody know, since you're a single guy, your name, your age, and what you do for work. Because somebody might see this that's interested. You never know.
Yeah, I'm 28 years old. I live in southeastern Kansas. I'm a law enforcement officer. Been doing it for 5 years now, probably a little bit. There's probably some issues with me doing this in law enforcement, but that's what I do. I'm from a big family, and yeah,
Yeah, 28 though.
yeah,
Yeah,
28.
you don't look 28, man. You look way older, honestly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Ouch!
yeah.
Is
No,
that good or
I think
bad?
it's a good. I think it's a good thing because in today's day and age, women honestly sometimes want an older man or like older. Like, there's a lot of guys that don't have a beard or don't have a mustache, and they might have a really hard time dating until they get those things or until they're just older. Like, for some reason, those are features that are just sought after.
Mhm.
Right.
And for you, so how strong? Well, first we'll just ask like, what's your name, your age, just that quick basic stuff, and then I want to know like how strong is your relationship with God and with Christianity and all
Mhm.
that.
My name's Annalise. I'm 22 years old. Currently, I'm still a college student, and then I will be going into the army. My relationship with Jesus in the past was a little rocky. I just really didn't know how to set that foundation with God and like where to start my relationship with Him. I would say in the past 3 or 4 years, it's really become one of the most important things in my life. I base the way I live off of my relationship with God. I want to look more like Him every day. And it's probably one of the most important things when it comes to a relationship, like Levi said, whether that be a friendship, family, or a future boyfriend. So um, I like to live my life through the Word and kind of try and mirror what Jesus is.
Okay. Yeah, live Christ-like.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was a very strong Christian when I was younger, and that was the biggest. I was a part of Assembly's God Church, and the biggest part of it was just being Christ-like.
Mhm.
It's the biggest thing that was preached, and the only reason why I liked going so much was because everybody was extremely Christ-like. It
Yeah.
was the extremely loving environment. I don't think I'm ever going to experience again as well as it was back then because it
Mhm.
was.
It's hard to experience that in the secular world.
It's a
Mhm.
rare thing to find even in churches though today as
It
well. Like,
Yeah.
is.
I've noticed even looking around trying to find something similar, it's very hard to just find. Period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just people are different today. But
Yeah.
people are
Mhm.
disconnected more than ever. But I want to ask some more dating questions just really quick too, just so people can learn more about y'all. Obviously, um, how long have y'all both been single? How long have you been single?
I have been single for a year and 8 months.
Year and 8 months. And why'd your last relationship end?
Oh, do you want the whole story?
It's a long story.
It's a long story. All
Mm,
right.
Give us like a dumbed down version of
Okay,
it.
yeah.
just a dumbed down version for everybody. Basically, she wanted to move to California. I wasn't ready to go, and I was not honest.
Why does she want to go to California for a job
No,
or
she
family?
was originally from there.
Okay.
She was the hottest thing I had ever seen walking.
Uh-huh.
And so, like, I wanted to secure the relationship. So at the beginning, I secured the relationship immediately because she was the hottest thing walking. And it led to that. She like, "You're moving to California with me." And I'm like, "All right, I'll move to California with you. Anything to get you to stay with me." And what ended up happening was I wasn't ready to go, and she went. So we broke up, and that's the way things played out.
Yeah, I mean, if her family was there, I feel like this is something I like to talk about sometimes. Is like one of the things that really split the families up was just globalization, just the world getting bigger and people moving. Like even with like my own personal family, like my father having to go and travel more for his job,
Mhm.
just simply to be able to provide and make the amount of money that my family was making, he had to travel. He had to go out of the state. He had to go do things. And sadly, I think that's something that breaks apart the family
Mhm.
traditions that we were able to
Right.
have, a
Yeah.
thousand years ago. It was such an easy thing for us to have. But today, there's so much that
Well,
tears us
Yeah.
apart.
you can always find better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Wherever you go, you can always find better, and
Yeah.
that idea in the back of your mind makes you never want to settle down.
Mhm.
Well, hypergamy for women, for sure. Like,
Hmm.
women are always gonna have hypergamy, which is what red pill spaces always talk about. Like, a woman's always gonna go to the best provider that she can find. That's probably the big issue that, the only thing that with Christianity or with the church right now that bothers me sometimes is that they're really not they're not telling these guys like, "Hey, y'all really gotta become providers." This is one of the big things I preach on my channel too, is provision is everything.
Yes.
If guys were providers today, if the dollar wasn't devalued so bad, we wouldn't have any of these issues that we're
Mhm.
having today. It's just like the women had to go to the workforce, women had to do all this stuff. They were forced into all these, their environment forced them into all these things. And now as guys, we're broke and we can't do what we used to, what our fathers and our grandfathers could do. So the next thing you know, like we're emasculated whenever we can't even get the new tire that needs to be bought.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And like it's that simple. You can become emasculated in a relationship the second you're not able to pay for something, which
Mhm.
happens very quick in relationships today.
Mhm.
There's something, some accident happens, and the girl looks at the man and says, "We need to do this right now." And he's supposed to be the problem solver. The man's supposed to always be able to solve every problem.
Mhm.
The second that he can't pay for that because he doesn't get his paycheck till Friday, and even that paycheck is going towards this other bill, you're emasculated.
Mhm.
Right.
You're instantly not the man.
Feminine qualities are preached to our children: compassion and empathy.
Hmm.
It's the same reason why when you don't win a game, you get a damn participation
Yeah.
trophy.
Mhm.
That's the problem. It's that we hold that to a virtuous standard, and it's not the standard of virtue of courage.
Delete that chatter if you can, man.
But
Never had that.
it happens. It happens on mine all the time, dude. Because when I'm talking about serious things, you gotta have somebody that comes in and throws in something that wants to throw you off. And this is
Make your brain
part,
go that
yeah,
way.
exactly. Because I'll tell you what, man, the world doesn't want truth.
That is
The
true.
world wants fallacies.
That's
And
true.
that's the reason why we see this empathy and compassion movement so much.
Hmm.
Taking away from the masculine qualities of going out, being courageous in your community, acting upon your intuition, knowing what to do in the right moments at the right time, trusting that and acting upon it.
Hmm.
And there aren't enough men in this world that are willing to do that. And it's because what they're essentially trained to do. We're trained to be demasculated.
Hmm.
And what women really want, right, is a masculine man, though.
The
So how
opposite.
does a man in today's culture, how does he find um
Balance.
Like a
that
happy
balance, that
medium.
drive, that motivation to
Mhm.
become that type of man?
When they're
Mhm.
telling us don't do it, don't do it, don't do
Yeah.
it. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Um, so like as a guy in a relationship, I don't really worry about a lot of things because like even if I was single, I know how like my pursuit to get a girl for y'all, since y'all are people that are trying to not fall into like all the hedonistic garbage and
Mhm.
everything. What's y'all's strategies to find a good partner today? Because I have to give advice to men all the time, and I don't know how to give sometimes what I would say is good advice.
Mhm.
Like I was saying, like I don't like what the church is telling men to take a lot of bad deals right now. They're telling the men, you know, you need to take these women that have 20, 30 bodies, but they're born again virgins. You need to take on these things that could hurt you very badly in the future. You could end up like those women could end up ruining your life, you know, if you take it. But the church is really pushing for men to, you know, save these women.
Mhm.
And so like, but there's not a lot of solutions outside of that. Like that's like one thing for these guys that are having a lot of trouble is save one of these women that are very damaged. Or you could take my route that I teach men, which is go and try to find younger, beautiful women that aren't damaged yet and ruined. Or you could try to the online dating, you know. So I want to know what is y'all's number one strategy right now? What app are you using? Are you doing like do you cold approach? Do you talk to guys in person? You know,
Mhm.
like how are y'all finding potential partners, you know? Well, and we'll start with you this time
Yeah.
actually.
So my approach, one thing I constantly have to remind myself is don't fall into lust because it's really easy to fall into lust. And also don't put your values on the back burner. Keep your values at the front of what you want your relationship to be based on. So you have to be picky about who you're talking to. I've tried dating apps and they just don't really work out well for me. So I like to meet people in person. I don't like being behind a screen because you don't really get to know someone that way and their how they act and the way they talk, and the like chemistry you have. You don't get that over text. I like to talk to people in person. You just have to be bold. You have to be confident. Um,
Do you go and approach men sometimes?
uh, Sometimes,
I'm
not
trying
very
I'm trying to
often.
tell women today you have
You have
to
to.
if you want a good man, you have to
Absolutely.
pursue him for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard for me. I get a little shy sometimes. I don't really like to go out of my way to do it just because I have like a fear of rejection. Um, but I do sometimes go out of my way to talk to men, and I think that's the best approach for me. Because then I'm pursuing someone that I'm potentially interested in instead of all these random people just coming up to me. Um, but I think that's the best way is to meet people in person.
So, but you've rejected a lot of men. You
Um,
fear rejection, but you've rejected a lot of
I'm
men.
just picky. I've been
Oh
single for
yeah.
so long that I have to be picky
Well,
now.
I gotta ask another question. So you brought up lust. You know, lust is a
Mhm.
big deal, but I gotta ask this. I looked at your Instagram profile,
Mhm.
and you have bikini pictures. Okay,
Yeah.
now as somebody that has that up, lust I believe is a two-way street. Like you know, like yes, like you need to make sure that you're not being lustful, but
Mhm.
you don't want lustful. Like it says in the Bible, you know, you don't want lustful eyes on you as
Yeah.
well. So why would you want to put up a picture that's going to bring those type of men,
Mhm.
you know, like those type of guys are going to see your profile.
Yeah.
So I give dating advice all the time. So I'm just going to say, if you want to attract a certain type of guy, I
Mhm.
highly suggest taking the pictures down.
Yeah.
And the only reason why is because you might be you know, like luring in a certain type of person right now that's going to distract you from that man of God.
Yeah.
That,
I
that,
definitely agree with you.
that,
For sure.
that I would see that and instantly walk
Are these
away.
not
Yeah.
conversations I have with you all the time that you
It's
refuse to
different
listen to
hearing
me
it from
on?
my uncle than
Well, yeah,
someone.
but see, that's the thing. Today, a lot of the younger generation, it's hard to listen to an uncle or a
Right.
dad
Mhm.
or something like that because there's like that with the internet. There's so many other opinions out there
Mhm.
that they're like, oh, well, my uncle's pigeonholed to only seeing this way, or my
Right.
dad's pigeonholed to only seeing
Mhm.
this way,
Right.
and you see all this other stuff, especially going to college and stuff. You see
Mhm.
all this other stuff, but when you hear it from me, a 31-year-old who's in a successful relationship
Mhm.
with a 23-year-old. I've had serious relationships. I've had 5 serious relationships. I've lived with every girl. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, and I'm a very strong, like moral, like I call myself a unicorn because I make a lot of money
You
and
are.
I also am loyal, and
Yeah.
that's an extremely rare thing.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, if you want to find a unicorn, a guy who makes good money and also is a man of God or is
Mhm.
loyal to you, you're gonna have to look at things a certain way, like taking the pictures
Yeah.
down, you
I
know.
agree with that.
But yeah, I just wanted to. But I agree with you. Lust is really bad. I
It
like to
is.
like this last week. I asked on my show, "What's the of the seven deadly sins? Which one is the one that's most prevalent?" And most people said lust
Mhm.
because it is obviously one of the most
But
prevalent
we
today.
promote lust
Yes,
in
we
It
this
do.
is.
culture.
Yeah.
Well, it's marketed. It's not that we promote it. Everything always it always goes back to the dollars. Always go back to
Yeah.
money because think it's all about marketing. Like it all started with Vogue. It all started with these magazines being like, "Oh shit, if we tell these women
Sex
to do this
sells.
stuff, Yeah, well, if we tell these women to do this, they're gonna buy more makeup. If we tell them to do this, they're gonna go get their body
Mhm.
done. It's just all these industries that wanted to make more money,
Mhm.
and then the guys who own those industries, they knew if we tell the women these things, we'll make more money. Everything. I never get mad about anything or point a specific finger about certain things because it's always money to me. It's always profit, especially as a business owner and somebody that's owned multiple businesses. I see it's very narcissistic because I always like to tell people that narcissism is the biggest trait in the United States, and the reason why is because you have to be a narcissist to make a product for $1 and sell it for 15.
Mhm.
And that's what every big company does. It's a super narcissistic thing, but that's what capitalism runs
Yeah.
on, narcissism. We
I
wouldn't have be where we are today if it
Yeah.
wasn't for that narcissism.
I'm actually going to disagree with you.
Okay,
And the reason why I disagree with you is because only 2% of the population are narcissists, true narcissists, where they
you're right.
live a lifestyle solely predicated on themselves.
Mhm.
But selfishness, yes. But narcissism, I'm not sure about
well,
that.
like here's the thing. So the number one trait to any personality disorder, including narcissism, because it's just one of the many personality disorders, is that you can't. And I speak all this as a narcissist, as somebody that's actually diagnosed. And like the thing is, and like the thing is, the number one trait of a narcissist is that you cannot be self-aware of it, and that's for any personality disorder.
Right.
So like I know what statistics you're talking about because I've read them all too. There's only 10% of people that are the borderline personality disorder. Like I've looked at all and what it comes out to is about a total of 30 to 35% of people have a personality disorder, but that's people who admitted to it. Those are
Right.
people that took a
Right. Well,
test.
good point.
Those are people that like took tests honestly at doctors'
Mhm.
offices. And the thing is if you have a true personality disorder, you don't answer honestly on
No,
anything.
because you don't
Yeah.
want to admit
You
it.
cannot
Yeah.
accept your own,
Mhm.
and that's the
Well,
ego.
Yeah.
and
That's the
like
ego that we're all battling every day. And
Mhm.
you
some
don't
people have a
even
harder battle than others.
Yeah.
you don't even consciously recognize it.
Yeah,
Like it's not even there. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're going to answer questions and you're answering questions based on what you think is right, not what is actually true.
Or
Yeah.
who you want
Well,
to be rather than who you actually
Well,
are.
well, well, we're all animals at the end of the day. We're 99% of our DNA is still chimpanzees.
Mhm.
So I'd like to say that we as humans, we always try to act like we're so advanced and we're so smart. At the end of the day, we're mostly an animal
Mhm.
still. Like, and we could try to act like we're stronger than our brain, our animal instincts. But I'd like to tell the guys all the time that I'm always mentoring. Like, I have to have shit tests with my girlfriend all the time.
Yeah.
And constantly my animal instinct is to react back to her when she does certain things. But
Yeah.
you have to be stoic. You have
I
to
I
be a
I
rock.
I think, for anybody that's watching this, if you want a good book on this topic to read, it's called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, a phenomenal book because all of this is based on our ego. You're saying like you do a test, you do a check, like she keeps you in check.
Mhm.
And that's good that you're doing that because you're recognizing I need to potentially put my ego aside so that this relationship can persist,
Mhm.
right? And so that's good that you're doing that.
Yeah.
But anybody that really wants to read about stoicism and get to know the self-awareness within themselves and know that their ego is the enemy and living life where you're constantly you get because I was that way, man. I didn't want to show my weakness per se. And now I'm so it's not even like vulnerability is preached, but it's not even me being vulnerable anymore. I just don't have anything to protect. I'm not living for myself anymore. I'm dead to myself.
Mhm.
Paul writes in Romans that we're dead to our flesh.
Mhm.
And so I don't have to protect this image of me anymore.
Mhm.
And so I get to live life that way. So, when I come on this podcast and I'm telling my friends, hey, I'm going to make myself an idiot tonight, I
Mhm.
don't care what people think,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I live life that way.
Yeah.
And I know at the end of the day that my intentions are good and well intentioned so that I go into life giving people good instead of bad.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and my hope is that the people around me hold me accountable, keep me responsible to my actions
Mhm.
because we don't have enough of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't want to hurt your feelings. Well, too bad.
Mhm.
Like too bad. Screw your
Yeah.
feelings.
Yes, I
Like
agree.
feelings are deceiving.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your question that you asked her
Yeah.
though about what qualities essentially that you set up for a relationship or whatever like
How you approach it.
yeah, how you approach it. As a man, here's the thing, dude. I've been on over 40 dates over the last year,
Mhm.
and I go up, Annalise. We were down at the bars last night.
Mhm.
I do not care.
He
I will go up
to
to
anyone.
every single girl. I do not care. Rejection is the name of the game,
Mhm.
and be completely okay with rejection.
Yep.
And once you get past and that's the ego thing too,
Mhm.
right? It's like, oh, why would she deny me?
Mhm.
The ego gives you fear.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be fearful anymore.
Mhm.
I can just go up and talk to any girl.
Mhm.
It's not that I'm a man whore or I'm looking for sex. No, I'm looking for relationship, and I want to see if you can carry a conversation. So
Mhm.
I'm going to walk up like a gentleman and introduce myself. Hello, I'm Levi Brickley. I'm from southeastern Kansas. I'm a law enforcement officer. Been doing it for 5 years. I come from a large family. Blah 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 blah.
But
So
that's so
rejection.
unheard of now.
Yeah, but it's also
It shouldn't
awkward.
be.
I
It's
know.
so
It
sad. It
shouldn't be,
shouldn't
but
be.
it
Yeah.
It's
is.
also awkward because women,
Mhm.
a lot of women in this culture live a very surface level life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And well, a lot of men do too. So
Yeah.
so don't take that wrong. This is 50-50. And
Mhm.
so like look at it subjective,
Mhm.
right? Is that so many people are living this very surface level life and can't understand the deeper meanings of what's going on in the world around them. They
Mhm.
can't understand it because they haven't articulated the thoughts to begin to understand it.
Yep.
And but another thing,
But you like
being
cold approach. I like knowing that you like cold
Mhm.
approach though. Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
yeah, what is there to fear? But another thing for all singles out there, this is the most important thing that you can do is write down a hierarchical list. Okay. So you write down 10 things that are important to you. And then you structure that with what is most important. What are you not willing to compromise on? And then you go down that list. It's not about setting your standards too high. It's about being aware where you can compromise. But I'll tell you this right now, as a Christian, I'm not compromising on a relationship with God.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, where does politics play into that? Because politics are huge in
Mhm.
relationships.
Yeah.
Where does that fall in? Maybe like 3 or 4. You know, attractiveness. I'm a dude. Like I'm not going to lie. I want an attractive woman.
Yeah.
You know, and not only like, and this probably comes back to that whole ego conversation. Is like I want to be able to walk in a room and everybody be like, damn, she's hot. And I want to be able to think in the back of my mind, yeah, she's hot and she's a great woman.
Mhm.
And you don't get that side of her.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You just get to look.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
No, I,
I
I
love
always
that
say
woman.
that's the number one thing. Like the whole reason why like I'm successful is because I always have a beautiful woman by my side. There's something about it
Yes.
that it attracts money to you, attracts business to you. Like
Mhm.
whenever you always have a beautiful girl by your side, you just get more opportunities in life. I don't know why. It's like
Mhm.
she's the diamond that attracts everything to me, kind of. I don't know. That's why I always feel like that's why I always surround myself with beautiful women too, because they attract money.
Mhm.
They attract higher people of higher status every time. It's just how the
Mhm.
world works. One thing that I really like to talk about also, not a lot of people talk about this, but I'm always trying to blend Christianity and religion with the secular world. I'm always trying to, because the big issue is there's so many atheists today, and I was atheist and agnostic at one point. So like I went from an extreme Christian to an extreme atheist at one point in my life. So I got to see the extremes of both sides, and I've always tried to figure out how to blend them together. I did it with Joseph Campbell's book, Hero of a Thousand Faces, but one of the things that nobody ever talks about that I kind of created myself is that sin is accountability. So,
Mhm.
like, the whole reason why you would go and confess your sins to the pastor is because you were taking accountability for something you did wrong. Just like how you were saying you want people to hold you accountable around you. It's something
Mhm.
that's missing today. And the whole reason is because, like, we need to cut the line between sin and accountability and say for like there's so many words that confuse everything. And like if we
Mhm.
stop calling sin, doing things bad and then going and confessing your sins, if we just started saying that's accountability and everybody needs to confess their sins, you need to hold accountability for yourself and everything. We could blend the past with the future, and everybody's really lost because we don't understand
Mhm.
our past anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like I really try to blend those two things together. Like I'm trying to blend everything from the past to something in the future. Like I also think that it's harmful for us to call God, nature, science,
Mhm.
the universe, all these separate things when in my head it's all one thing. God, the universe,
Mhm.
energy, nature, it is all one thing. And we're calling it all these separate words and it's confusing everybody.
Yeah.
Whereas if we called it for what it really is, like if we really
Isn't that
sat down,
isn't that what Satan would want? He'd want to divide.
yes, exactly.
And that is exactly what he's doing.
He's
He's
doing, yeah.
dividing our culture with all of these other terminologies that don't
Mhm.
give the proclivity to God and the ownership.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it's because it makes it really hard whenever you make it so individual. This is where I disagree with Christianity on a lot of things. Is because like I love the church. I was raised in a church. I went to a church a lot. Like I at one point in my life I stopped going to school and I was serving every day at my church. I was going there like a full-time employee basically from like 13 to 15 years old. And when I was doing this though and I was serving for Treasures in Heaven and all this stuff, I just learned a lot about how not everybody in the church is who they say they are.
Yeah.
Right,
Like
right.
there's a lot of people. It's just like being red pilled, or it's just like being woke. There's a lot of people on the woke movement that think that they know a lot of stuff that other people don't
Mhm.
know and stuff. There's a lot of people in the red pill movement that think they're really awake to a lot of things that the other
Well,
people aren't. And like that's with every religion too. Christianity, they think they're awake to certain realities, but in reality, like I really preach learning every religion, and that's just because in today's day and age in the 21st century you got to know a lot about everything, because that's how you get a full, that's how you put your puzzle, like you'll have
Mhm.
all the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
mhm.
Whereas like if you sit there and you preach only Christianity, we're only going to save the Christians, we're only going to save the
Mhm.
Americans that are into Christianity, or but like what about the Buddhists, what about the people in India, what about everybody around the world who are falling into the secular path and they're already atheists, they're already this, they're going to instantly deny a lot of Christianity thing. But if I
Mhm.
meld that with nature, if I meld it with science, I can save them still.
Mhm.
I think we have to be very careful to not look at people and say, well, that's who God is, because we're all imperfect.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of ego in the church, and it's tribalism. Tribalism in the sense that, hey, I go to First Southern Baptist
Hmm.
and I'm a deacon at this church, and it's all about protecting that ego in
Mhm.
that position within the church. And you're part of this group, so then it becomes tribalism. Well, I'm First Southern Baptist. Well, you're First Baptist, and you're
Protestant, whatever. Yeah.
Protestant, whatever. And so you start looking at those things, and you don't look at it as it's this simple. With God, it's this simple. Just a relationship with God. It's a relationship with Jesus, and you live your life predicated on that. That's it. Nothing else matters.
Hmm.
It's my relationship with God. But you saying like go out and experiment essentially with other religions. I think that it's important to set that tribalistic view of um, Christianity aside and be able to have open and authentic conversations with
Mhm.
people that don't agree with
It
you.
usually makes your faith stronger.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like when you test your faith with other faiths, it like every time I've tested my faith, I still come back to Christianity. Like
Mhm.
like the story of Jesus is still more changing than any other faith that I look into. Like I take a
Right.
little piece of those. And another thing though is that like I love history so much that
Me
I like
too.
to debate whether Jesus, was he a real person? Was he just, something that was symbolized or just written about? And like, I like to think he was a real person, but I like to think he was a normal person too.
Mhm.
That's something that's sometimes frowned upon in the Christian community, but I think he was a normal man that went and traveled when he was young, and he came back, at 30, and he was able to teach things because he went traveling around the world and experienced different religions and
Mhm.
different things. And that's all I lived. A lot of us are living, Christly path, I guess you could say. And we're all doing that same kind of thing. Like we're learning these same tricks that Jesus learned.
Mhm.
Right.
All these different things, and like through that path, you're gonna fully be enlightened, I guess you
Uh,
can say.
I think the way to look at it too is like Jesus was like, this is what's going to happen to you if you live this lifestyle. He
Hmm.
he didn't look at the person and he wasn't like, you heathen, you're going to hell. He didn't do that. He's like, I'm here to die for you,
Mhm.
dude.
Hmm.
And that's the way we go into establishing relationships, not just dating, but friendships.
Mhm.
Is that I'm here to sacrifice myself for you.
Hmm.
That is what the Christian walk is all about, is to live
I didn't think about it that
sacrificially.
way. Yeah, no, I always looked at it like, how like when he washed the feet of, of Judas and stuff. Like I see it as like it's the ultimate humility. Like he's always was trying to teach humility in the highest form. And
Yeah.
like we can't even relate to it. Like none of us are going and washing the feet of a homeless person.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
we can't even relate to the humility of that. But we
Mhm.
can try to personify with it. We can try to, really take it in like in that way that he did it, I guess you could say. Humility, that's one of the things that I think is, like when I asked the seven deadly sins thing, I all like in my head I think pride is the worst.
Mhm.
I think pride is the number one
Oh
thing
yeah.
that destroys us more than anything. I think
Yeah.
humility, one of the seven virtues, I think that's like the least thing today. I think humility is completely
Yeah.
almost gone, and
Absolutely.
pride is through, and pride gives power to the other 6 deadly sins. Like if you have a lot of pride, you're gonna be lustful.
Yeah, it's a snowball
You're gonna
effect.
be greedy. You're gonna do
Yeah.
all these other things if you have too much pride.
Yeah.
It all starts with the pride. But what's something else that was religious based that I wanted to talk to y'all about? I'm trying to think.
What are you thinking so far, Annalise?
Yeah.
I think it's a good conversation. I definitely agree with what you were saying. Pride does create a snowball effect. It kind of stems from pride. If you're too prideful, then you think you're better than everyone, and it just starts snowballing altogether. So I think that was a really great point.
No, I'm really, like I said, everything that I do with this show is most of the people that come on are not strong Christians. They might call themselves Christians, but this is why like I try so hard to bridge this gap. This gap of religion and science. Like the way that I see it is religion, science, and spirituality, and I'm in the middle.
Well,
And I'm trying to pull it all together.
if God created everything, he created science too.
Yeah, no, he did. And I see I already merged it. In my head, it's
Right.
already one.
Right.
And it's just like I have to convince everybody else now that that it is one. And like it's just a matter of figuring that out. Joseph Campbell did an amazing job at it. One of his videos that I love to watch all the time is that he's talking to the interviewer and he's like, I just want people to understand that the greatest river of life is it's right there. And the guy's like, what do you mean right there? And he's like, it's right there. And he's like, but what do you mean? He's just like, all like that. What you're thirsting for so much, it's right there.
Yeah.
And so many people don't see it. They don't realize that we are so close to it, and we're so disconnected. I always see it as like a river of consciousness, and like there's a bunch of people pushing towards that river of consciousness. People like us, I would say, that know the truth, and we're all pushing towards us for this goal that consciousness wants, determinism. And what we're all pushing for. And then there's a lot of people in the darkness that are just wondering.
That's what we are in culture. We're wonders.
Yes, everybody is wanderers right now. Like I think it's very rare. And like I like how you're very strong about you're waiting for somebody. But I gotta ask you about that. So like you're really waiting for that perfect woman. But at the same time, I wish I could have done something like that. But at the same time, I know that I want my lineage to go on. I know my DNA can die with me if I didn't have a kid. I shouldn't have had a kid as early as I did. I'm not proud of how it happened, but I'm very proud of how it is now. Like I'm happy with my co-parenting situation. I got lucky. There's very few guys
make the best out of the situations that you are presented.
Yes, but so like but I'm happy my lineage is going on. I'm happy I got a great woman right now that I hope to marry and have more kids with. But I would be scared if I was single because it's so hard to find it. I wouldn't have strict rule sets, I guess. Like I would be way more open to even the really shitty women because I know that I could possibly change them or I could possibly help them. So do you feel like maybe you having those really strict rule sets might hurt you or do you think that it's gonna pigeonhole you to the perfect person?
I think to some degree it pigeonholes. But I also think that excuse me. I also think that man, what was my train of thought on that? I look at it like this is that I don't have to have a woman. Like, and so because I'm there, like it's okay to pigeonhole.
It's kind of like
Because
a
I don't
pastor.
need it
Yeah.
because I'm so at peace in myself that I just believe God's going to bless me with that if he calls me to do it. But here's the thing. I don't have to be fearful that I'm not going to get that because I have a purpose. And I know that if she doesn't come on board with my purpose or is part of that purpose, then I can continue doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Man, I love this microphone.
Yeah.
That's what I love. And so when you find that drives you beyond all of the heart and the hurt and all of the depression that you experience, when you find that love and that passion, you can just live that life.
And you're more likely to find that person that comes to you because of that.
Exactly.
So yeah, so you're doing the right thing in the end of the day.
One of the biggest
no
things
what.
I always talk about is become the type of person that the person you want would want to be with you.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing, dude. You got to work on you. Don't think like this magical man is going to come out of nowhere. This magical woman is going to come out of nowhere. Work on you.
Yeah.
Work on your perspectives. Keep yourself accountable. I think one of the best things about podcasting for me is getting behind the microphone and I listen to myself and I'm like, I sound like an idiot there. And I'm shooting from the hip all the time, right? Like
Mhm.
off the top of my dome.
Mhm.
And it's like sometimes I'm not even saying exactly what I believe.
Mhm.
I'm trying to articulate what I deeply believe.
Mhm.
And I struggle with that. And then I go back and I listen to it and I'm like, I can rephrase that. And what's really cool about that is it holds me accountable to go forth into conversations,
Mhm.
to hold them more appropriate
Mhm.
and say the things that I want to say right.
The next thing you know, you get better and better and better.
Mhm.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, look at somebody like Jordan Peterson, dude.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah,
that
that shit's crazy.
Jordan Peterson didn't just come out and be an articulate person from day one. I mean, you go back, you listen
Oh
to
yeah,
him,
you watched the very first video when he walked out of the college campus and like how confused that he was debating like that trans guy. Yeah, like he was definitely like very he was having a
right.
struggle, but now he's crazy. Yeah.
It's a skill set.
Yeah.
Communication is a skill set. And the number one thing about communication that people disregard often is listening for the right question.
Mhm.
That's huge. When you can find the right question, you can dig the conversation so deep and peel back the layers of an onion.
That's true.
Dude, you like questions is active listening. You
Yes.
actively listen to every word. And you're like, wait. Why did you say that?
Mhm.
And you carry that into a dating relationship too,
Mhm.
right?
Very true.
Because when you start asking those questions, maybe you're a little bit more aware of that I'm not going to let my emotions get the best of me here, and I'm not going to get mad and angry at my partner. I'm going to try and ask the question to understand why she's saying what she's saying.
Yeah. No, that's very true. No, and you're so right because I've learned from doing the podcast. It is insane how much better you get as time goes on. What episode did you say you're on for yours right now?
This morning I released episode 63.
63. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm only on 12, 13 or whatever. But yeah, it's crazy how much you get better as every episode goes on. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, you go back and you watch, say, how can I rephrase that better? One of my favorite things I always say is Einstein's one of my favorite quotes by him was, you don't know something well enough, you can't explain it simply. And
Mhm.
yeah, so like every time I try to get better at explaining things simpler, simpler and simpler and simpler. And it's just like that's what the theologians of the future are going to be the podcasters and the influencers who sit here and practice our tongue like
Mhm.
this because we're not sitting in coffee shops or we're not like our founding fathers where we were sitting around
Right.
and doing these things by coffee and smoke or something, like it's not the
Right.
same as it was. Like we're
We're
doing
doing
it.
this over iMessage.
Yeah, it's way
Like
different.
we're not sitting face to face
Yeah.
having face to face conversations, and that's the reason why podcasting has blew up,
Mhm.
because people have a need for conversation and to hear a voice.
Very true. It's the
And
facial expressions too, to be able to read facial expressions and
Mhm.
muscles. Yeah.
yes,
And
huge, a lot of psychology to it.
that's what one of the things that bothers me with these guys that aren't getting out enough. You're not learning the social skills from facial movements to tell that
Yeah,
a girl is giving you these negative signs. Like
Mhm.
next
yeah.
thing you know, they like hate women because they did something. It's like, well, you didn't get the 10 signs she gave you before with her nose and her
Yeah.
lips and this. Her nostrils were flaring the whole time to get for you to get
And
away.
you said you have a bunch of women in your life, so you
Yeah.
pull a lot from how you communicate to women from those relationships that you have with them, or
Yeah, I just always make it clear that I try to teach men to friend zone women. Like I think that you should be friends with women. Like you should try and the best way for you to do that is instantly friend zone them. You're gonna get mad if you talk to them with the intent of wanting something in
Mhm.
return. But if you talk to them with the intent of you're actually my friend, I'm just trying to hang out with you, I'm friend zoning you. And
Mhm.
sometimes it makes that girl like you.
right,
Like sometimes it back and like the girl's like, what? I like you. Why are you doing this to me?
yeah,
Sometimes it backfires in a good way. So like I'm always teaching men to just be friends with women because it's just gonna help you in the long run. Period.
Mhm.
There's so many benefits. The energy from a female is very strong and it's a good thing. And
great.
it's
Women
seen
are
as the opposite.
awesome.
Yes, it's seen as the
Women are
opposite though
awesome.
today.
Red
Oh,
red pill movement will teach you that all women are bad and they're out to
yeah.
destroy you, and women are
And just
not that.
some, just some. Some are like that, but not all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's very few women that are actually like that. But I want to ask you a question based on what he was just saying. You have a lot of guys
Mhm.
that you're friends
Yeah.
with. What, like, how does that relationship work? And like for me, just real quick, for me, like I've only recently started establishing friendships with girls,
Mhm.
and I know that I'm an attractive dude, and I'm always worried that there's a desire for me in a
Mhm.
dating relationship with these women, at least from their end, but not my
Mhm.
end. like, how do you, like, establish the boundary to keep it from,
Going
becoming
further.
that when it's
Yeah.
something that you don't want? Do
Yeah.
you see him start getting jealous? What?
So, in my opinion, I think it's extremely healthy to keep a balanced friendship of both men and women. Like you were saying, it kind of gives you an opportunity to interact with the opposite sex, and again, like get the cues and the facial expressions and the gestures to understand how to talk to the opposite sex in the future when you want to pursue something. Um, I think for me, I just set boundaries. Like I just straight up tell them like you're my friend. If it starts to get too far, I'll tell them like I'm uncomfortable. This is like one of my a really good friendship in my life, and I don't want to ruin that.
Almost careless, open communication. Like, you
Yeah.
don't care if you hurt their feelings.
No, because at
Right.
that point, I feel like if it's getting to that level, then our friendship is already very solidified and very strong. So I feel like I can be honest with them about that. I also think establishing those strong friendships from the beginning can turn into a really strong relationship in the future. Um, but I think just setting boundaries and just letting them know like where your mind's at and what you expect out of the friendship. Um, so there's never really been a problem.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I want to ask something kind of about that. Um, like guys normally don't like a girl that's friends with a lot
Hmm.
of guys,
Yeah.
just so you know. So if you're doing that, do you think that like you having a lot of guy friends is gonna deter maybe a guy that really like that really better for you,
Yeah.
but you might deter him because he's like, she's surrounded by a lot of dudes. I don't want to
Yeah.
be around that.
I
Or how do you feel when you're talking to a dude and he's got a bunch of
So,
girlfriends?
in my
Yeah.
opinion, it has backfired in my face so many times. Like they say you have too many guy friends, it makes me uncomfortable. But in my experiences, I don't want to sacrifice those strong friendships just for somebody to get jealous over. Those friendships are extremely important to me, and I enjoy having them in my life. And if a guy gets jealous over that, I don't want to sacrifice all these friends for one person because
Well,
you
let
don't.
me, let me explain to you why a guy would be that way,
Mhm.
just from a male's perspective. The reason why is because you're not like obviously he trusts you.
Mhm.
You're not gonna try to sleep with those
Yeah.
guys. You're a woman.
Mhm.
It's not your job. It's those guys' job.
Mhm.
Those guys are trying to pursue you, and a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, a guy will sit there and be a beta orbiter, is what we call them, where they're being your friend. They're
Mhm.
acting cool, but they want something in the end. Like they
Mhm.
want something with you. So that's why it's like you're walking around with a for sale sign on
Mhm.
whenever you have a guy over here who really is trying to take you serious.
Mhm.
So like
And
whenever
he
you
may be a really good
yeah,
guy.
yeah, I don't I
Mhm.
don't I don't know what these other guys are, but if a guy has told you, "Hey, I don't like all those guys," and he was a really good guy
Mhm.
and you passed him up for those 10 beta orbiters,
Mhm.
you might have made a big mistake
Yeah,
there.
but then I ask you, what's the difference in me having a lot of guy friends and then a male having a lot of
I'll explain
girlfriends?
to you perfectly. The reason why it's completely different is because once again, I'm the pursuer. So like
Mhm.
my girl, perfect example, she knows that I have a lot of girls that are my friends, okay?
Mhm.
But whose fault is it if I end up sleeping with them? Like
Mhm.
if I tell her every day I'm loyal to you and I'm not sleeping with you or I'm not sleeping around or anything like that, that's on me.
Mhm.
Like and she
You.
has to trust that I'm
Yeah.
not like all the
Extreme ownership.
yeah, that I'm not like all these
Yeah.
other guys that do
Yeah.
sleep around. I have to sit there and tell her every day, I'm loyal. I'm not going to do this.
Mhm.
And she has to trust that because I'm the pursuer. Those
Mhm.
girls aren't, I mean, don't get me wrong. A girl might throw herself at me, but it's up to me to say no, to
Mhm.
not go against my animal instinct and say, no, I don't
But
want
but
that.
Mhm.
also to understand what you're doing here with the podcast, like, you have to be able to have relationships with other women, and friendships.
Hmm.
And so, like, that's
Yeah, it's
totally normal. And
necessary
and,
too.
and so you have to make sure that your girlfriend, your wife, is extremely secure in the relationship with you.
Yeah.
And that didn't just come overnight. You established trust in the beginning. That
Yeah.
loyalty was established.
Yeah.
Like, she
That's
sees
why she
that
wasn't
day in
worried
and day
about this.
out.
Yeah,
Right.
she wasn't worried about me starting this
Mhm.
podcast and messaging. I got 100 DMs right now with girls to come on the show right now. She's not insecure about any of it
Yeah.
because of our past for the past 2 years. Like she
Mhm.
knows how loyal I am. She
Mhm.
knows
Right.
she's seen tons of. I give her my phone as soon as she asks for anything. She gets it.
Mhm.
She sees all of my stuff all the time. There's
Mhm.
nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you. I don't know if this is gonna get too personal, um, but or if you don't mind asking, are you celibate?
No.
No, like, so, like, you're not celibate, right now, or you haven't been celibate.
I haven't been celibate.
Okay.
Mhm.
Alright, so, like and I wanna just say when you're pursuing a new guy I'm just trying to give you, like, a little bit of dating advice.
Mhm.
If you try to pursue a new guy and you try to make them wait,
Mhm.
I don't know if you make guys wait, but
Mhm.
if you do, I just want you to know it might backfire, because some of those guys that are, once again, really good guys, they might be like, look, she might be a good Christian girl and all these things, but Tyrone didn't have to wait, or like
Mhm.
this other guy didn't have to
Right.
wait. So
Mhm.
why is she making me wait,
Yeah.
weeks, months, maybe a year? I don't know
Yeah.
what you're doing now, but just be careful with that,
Yeah.
like, or at least keep it in the back of your mind, like, hey, like, if I'm going to say these things, I should probably be prepared for the guy to maybe leave because he thinks that's unfair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It just depends. Like, once again, sometimes a really good guy might be like, I'm not gonna wait for 6 months whenever I know
Mhm.
this other dude got it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify one thing too, though,
Mm-hmm.
that those standards go back to women having guy friends,
Mm-hmm.
guys having girlfriends. I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's
Yep.
completely equal there.
Yeah.
It's about your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You taking ownership of, I'm loyal to you. You should trust me. This
Mm-hmm.
and that, and that's all you've ever seen of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a healthy relationship. And so you should be able to, male or female, look, because I talk about this as we divide ourselves into silos within this culture. We say, oh, well, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're a feminist, you're a red pill, you're this, you're that. We want to give everybody titles,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't give people what their true personality is. Well, like maybe it's a potential that there's just things I don't understand about this person. And because I put a title on them, that's me immediately making a judgment and
Yeah.
discernment
Just
on them.
putting them out.
Right, exactly. And so all men and women should establish the relationship with loyalty and trust, and
Mm-hmm.
then you should have the freedom to have friends.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely believe that. There's not men should be able to have friends, but women shouldn't be
Well,
able to have
like,
friends or vice
I
versa.
don't. So let me also clear something up. So, like, I have friends that are my girls, and say for like the past 2 years before I started the podcast, they're my friends, but I don't go hang out with them.
Mhm.
I don't message
Right.
them.
Yeah.
I don't like. They're my friends in the sense that me and my girl can still go to Hooters and they're gonna talk to us
Mhm.
because we're still friends with each other, type
Yeah.
of thing. Like,
Right.
I'm never gonna go out with them. I'm never gonna message them behind her back. I'm never gonna do these
Yeah.
things unless
Yeah.
it's business related or something like
And
that.
there's
No, I
there's
agree with
there's
that.
So,
also
like,
another
it's just
boundary.
respect, like
Yeah,
you're
I
Yeah.
agree
saying,
with that.
on
And
both
there's
sides.
another boundary to it too. When you're struggling with your relationship, you don't call your girlfriend to give you some validation in that.
Yeah.
Do not do that. That
No.
is the beginning of cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to own that stuff and take it to your wife. Call one
'Cause
of
then
your
it's
dudes.
Yeah.
allowing that girl to come into your relationship.
In an
Right.
emotional state
Yeah.
too. Yeah, yeah. No, that's something that happens all the time. I
Mhm.
agree. Yeah,
And
no.
reverse. I mean, women calling another dude.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't be
Whenever they're
like,
not getting enough time or attention,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
yeah.
definitely agree with that.
Yeah, so, like, so at your age and stuff, do you think that your generation is doomed? Do you think that everything is gonna get fixed and it's all gonna go, like, the pendulum is just really hardcore hedonism, but it might go back the other way? Like, what do you personally think, as somebody that's seeing it from the young,
Mhm.
the college age, like, you're seeing it right there? What
Yeah.
do you think?
I don't have a lot of hope for my generation really. Being in college, I see a lot of hookup culture and not people not wanting to settle down or um
Zero
yeah,
relationships.
no
Yeah, really no
relationships. And
relationships.
honestly, I don't see it a pendulum
The
yeah,
pendulum going back.
effect. I don't see it going back because as we go on, it's just going to keep progressing. I mean, social media is only going to get better, and I mean, we have these dating apps, but we don't know what it's going to be like in 10 years. And I think it's just going to keep progressing as time goes on and just get worse.
So, yeah, so, like, I agree with you, but I have a super optimistic point of
Mhm.
view that I'm gonna change the world and fix it
Yeah.
myself.
Exactly.
And,
That's why. That's what I'm sitting here thinking. I'm like, man, this is the reason why we do what we do, right?
no, for
Mhm.
real, this is why. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're the ones fighting back against the force. Like,
Mhm.
I always say, we're bringing balance to the force, and I feel like Andrew Tate and feminism,
Mhm.
that's like Anakin Skywalker, and they thought that was gonna bring balance to everything, but really it just went the complete all the way to the worst. And people like us are like, I'm Luke and you're Leia. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah,
But, like, we're trying to bring balance to the force. Like, we're trying to bring it back to fucking normality.
Right. Well, and look at people for what they are. Interesting creatures. People are very interesting creatures. Ask them questions, get to know them, have a genuine conversation, and be raw, be authentic. That's what this world needs at the end
Mhm.
of the day. And the hope is in doing a podcast like this is that it inspires somebody else to go out and have a conversation with their best friend that they've never had before, talking about the things that we've talked about on this podcast,
Mhm.
asking the questions that we're asking each other and the things that we're talking about. It's extremely important because this is the desire for truth that our culture has right now.
Mhm.
There's a reason why people are listening to Jordan Peterson.
Mhm.
Dude, I he had like 19,000 ratings on Spotify. In July, he now has 22,000. And I know how hard it is to get a rating or a review on Spotify. So I see that and I'm just like, dude, people love truth.
Yeah. No, it's the
People
truth.
need it because
Well, we
our
yearn
culture.
for it. Our brain wants
Mhm.
it so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the acceptance of truth is scary to people.
Yeah.
But
It's the amygdala where like the fear, you know?
but
Mhm.
this is where I think I find hope in all of this because we have been living a false reality
Mhm.
Mhm.
in culture. And so when people like something happens in their life, for me, it was a broken relationship, the girlfriend I told you about. And
Mhm.
I went through 9 months of like terrible depression, dude. I didn't want to get up out of my bed. I sat there and I cried. I only went to work and then I worked 2 calls back to back at work that were like the worst things that you can bring your mind to. And then I realized something. I was like, life is beautiful.
Mhm.
And I don't ever want my mom to find me in the situation that I found this person on this call. And
Mhm.
then I was like, so I have to choose something different with my life. And then so ever since then, it's been like, man, I'm so at freaking peace. Like, let's go, man. I wake up in the morning, man. I want to walk outside butt naked and just scream at the top of my lungs because I'm so excited about life.
Yeah, no, dude, I know exactly what you're saying. And you know what's crazy is I've met since I started my podcast, I've met you, online. There's so many people that have DM'd me and they're all on our team. They're all part of this journey that we're all trying to kind of fix everything and we all see the truth of it all. And it's way deeper than red pill. It's way deeper. Like I call it being truly red pilled is what I call it.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just so much deeper than a lot of the surface level things that a lot of other people are seeing. And I just hope everybody can get this passion that people like us
Yeah.
have in this shit. We're
Yeah.
like, we're really trying to like
Well,
change people or really trying to wake people up
And
to
and
the
and and
reality.
here's the thing, you hear a voice raised, you see a facial expression, and your immediate mind goes to, "Oh, that person's pissed off."
Mhm.
And no, dude, I'm freaking passionate.
Yeah, you're
Yo, I'm
excited.
passionate. I'm
Mhm.
excited about it. I love it. I want it.
And I love how your job kind of helped you teach you or like help show you it too. Like I believe
Yeah.
in the butterfly effect, and I believe everything happens for a reason. Like you had to experience that to be able to learn what you
Oh,
needed to
dude, it,
learn.
it grew me so
And I
much.
gotta teach something for everybody here. This is something that I never talk about, but I gotta teach everybody this because it really bothers me. And you're a police officer, so you'll be able to sit here. And
Yeah.
so, like, one of the things that I learned when I was like 18, 19 years old, when I was going to defensive driving, was like my teacher was like, he was like, I'm gonna make sure that y'all never get another ticket again. I'm gonna teach y'all what to do so you never get another ticket again. And ever since he taught me that, I do the exact thing. And all it is like obviously you pull over super far over, drive on the curb, whatever it takes, super far over for the cop to respect them. Pull over immediately, like within 2 or 3 seconds. As soon as I get behind you, get all the way over.
Mm,
Immediately, stop. Take your keys out, put them on the dash. I always roll down all my windows and I put my hands on the steering wheel. I do all this stuff, and like my dad worked for the Federal Bureau of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So like he also tried to teach me to respect authority as well
Mhm.
in that way. But like learning all these things, I've never had issues with cops my entire life.
Mhm.
They
mhm,
always let me go because it's a respect thing. Like, and it bothers me
mm,
because a lot of people don't understand that. Whenever you go to training or when you go to school, I don't know if you saw this, but a lot of them watch videos where they're showing like a cop walking up on a car and instantly being shot as soon
Mhm.
as they're within vision for the guy to
right,
shoot them
right.
because they just murdered somebody and they're running or something, and like every cop doesn't know what car they're coming up on, who's in that car. It could be
Mhm,
some illegal alien that has
mhm,
nothing to lose. You
Mhm.
never know who's in that car.
Mhm.
exactly.
You never know. So I do all that stuff out of respect for them because I
Mhm.
know that there's like when I do all that, he's walking up and his heart is just normal.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, this person's not about to do nothing crazy. We're
Yeah.
good." we're
Right.
good, and like I always do that because and they respect me, I respect them, they
Mhm.
respect me, and I like to tell this story because everybody needs to start doing this. And it's the biggest reason why I love this is because people don't put themselves in other people's shoes enough today.
Yeah. Well, bring this back to the dating world real quick.
Yeah, do it.
This is a part of the problem with being a law enforcement officer in the dating world is that we're going to cheat and beat.
Mhm.
And the truth is like that is a judgment that people are putting on me wearing this uniform, not knowing the truth about me that dude, I'm absent of my ego. I was raised by a single mother. I would never touch a woman like that.
Mhm.
I would never hit a woman. And I have always been extremely respectful to
Mhm.
you and
Extremely,
all of
yeah.
your friends,
Mhm.
everybody. Like I when I hear that for a law enforcement officer, it makes the dating world extremely
Mhm.
difficult.
Mhm.
Extremely difficult.
Yeah, no, and it all goes back to just you can't put. There's so many people today that can't put themselves in somebody else's shoes.
Mhm.
Right.
Like if they could just have a little bit of humility, like just try to put themselves in somebody else's feet, they would not be that way.
Mm-mm.
If they truly like saw that police officers go through some shit, they could die every day,
Well,
and it really is a scary
and
job.
and
Like,
look at us as people. We're
yeah,
people.
just
Yo.
normal people, yeah, and
We're
and the real reason why a lot of bad stuff happens with pullovers and stuff is it's just authority issues. People just don't,
Respect
there's no,
authority.
yeah, it's
but
just, and it's hard today. Like I understand why it's a socioeconomic issue. Once again, like there's a lot of fathers that weren't in people's houses,
mhm,
and in return they don't know how to respect authority,
Mhm.
and then bad
right.
shit happens, and a cop gets blamed for it. But in reality, it's I blame the system, man. I blame the fact that
You have the
poverty is,
media
yeah,
teaching you that all cops are bad, that
yeah,
all cops are out to hurt you, to
Yeah.
kill
yeah,
you, whatever. And the truth is, yes, absolutely. Is there ego? Yes, there's a
yeah,
lot of
sure, yeah,
ego in a
sure.
position of authority.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But the hope is that there's enough good police officers that outweigh the bad ones and we weed them out.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal in everything that I do in my job is to weed out the bad, hold them accountable, live with integrity and character, the morals and the justice and the reason why I got into the profession is to show people that I'm just as much a person as you.
Mhm.
I don't care if like okay, I have a job to do.
Mhm.
Like you're selling drugs. I don't care at the end of the day, the thing that's most important to me is my relationship with Christ.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'm going to hold you accountable for selling drugs.
Mhm.
But the number one thing that I care about is that you walk away from that situation knowing that you had a good interaction with a law
Mhm.
enforcement officer
Mhm.
and that you get to look at that authority and that there's a potential that because it's authority, much like God is that in that authority, maybe there's more respect for authority from that. And maybe it opens up the door to be like, why was he so different?
Mhm.
Why did he treat me different?
Mhm.
I know I've dealt with 100 officers in this department time and time again because I keep getting pulled over, or this keeps happening, or whatever. At the end of the day, when you come across a good one, it's like, that was nice.
No, yeah, it's so true. No, that's how I feel every time I get pulled over because I'm respectful of them, they're respectful to me, and
Mhm.
every time I'm like, "You're the greatest guy ever. Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
it's
Like,
a
you're
breath of
awesome."
fresh air, but it's also still hard because the media would never show that side.
Yeah,
Right.
well, it doesn't get
Well,
clicks.
it
Yeah.
doesn't
It
sell.
doesn't make
Yeah.
money. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but it always goes back to the dollar. That's why I
Mhm.
always say, like, I'm never get mad.
Yeah.
I just simply just shake my head and go, the
Mhm.
damn system,
Like,
man. The
what?
damn
Mhm.
system.
Here's
That's
the
just
thing
how it works.
everybody knows that the media is out to destroy this culture.
Yeah.
But our generation is so influenced by the media.
Well,
Oh,
influenced, but also we're willing to go back to it. Like, why
Mhm.
why don't we just shut off the damn TV
Yeah.
for once? Why don't we read the articles where it's just presented as this is what happened?
Mhm.
Read the report.
well, like,
Don't read somebody's interpretation of the
Yeah.
report.
but I'll explain to you why. It's because humans take the path of least resistance. We
Mhm.
are still animals,
Right.
so like that's why dating apps are successful. It's the path of least resistance. That's
Mhm.
why all types of things happen. I believe is because it's easier. Like especially like guys in dating, sometimes it's easier to just do the opposite of trying to get women. Like there's just sometimes it's always the path of least resistance,
Mhm.
and it's the same with the media. The path of least resistance is for them to do what their friend is doing, the
Mhm.
tribalism.
Mhm.
It's like everybody else is doing this, I'm gonna jump in with them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just we're all lazy as hell, privileged as hell.
Yeah.
If this
Mhm.
was 100, 200 years ago, like what's crazy is we complain more than ever, but we have more privileges more than ever. That's
Yeah.
why I love Pearl, because she's like, women are complaining about how hard it is to be a good wife or something, we got all these. We got air fryers. We
Yeah.
got all these things. We got YouTube channels that teach how to
Mhm.
cook full meals in 18 minutes. Like we have
Yeah.
all these crazy
Yeah.
privileges, but we're so entitled. Like, oh, but it's so hard. It's
Mhm.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
hard. Whenever we actually had to go like milk the goat to be able to get the
Yeah.
cheese
Yeah.
before, like
Yeah.
it's crazy. No, it's a crazy world we live in, man. So another thing, just to go back to dating. Once again, kind of back to you. I want to know, like, when you're talking to guys right now, one of the things I like to bring up all the time is that guys are finessing more than ever. They're lying more than
Mhm.
ever, in like in their pursuit to get women.
Mhm.
It's because a lot of them aren't providers. A lot of them don't have the money. Like, there's a ton of reasons why they need to lie or whatever to get into a girl's pants. Do you feel like that's true? Am I right? Is there a lot of guys that are doing a lot of really stupid shit just to try to, get with you, or am I kind of wrong in that? Is that something that's not as true as I think?
No, I think that's a fair assumption. I've definitely seen that a lot. And I think that's why I'm kind of so closed off to people at first because I don't
You don't know
I
their
I
true
I
intention.
know their intentions at the end of the day is sexual favors. Like so I think it is a fair assumption, but I don't think it's all the time. I don't think it's all the guys, obviously, but it's hard to pick them out though, and it's hard to see their true intentions through the lies. It's hard to
This
identify.
is what I bring up all the time too. Is that, women, y'all have a filtering issue. You have to
Mhm.
filter between 100 different guys,
Mhm.
and guys, you have to go approach 100
Well,
girls to get a
Mhm.
chance.
think about it when a woman goes shopping. She's got 1,000 options in front of her. She can't make the decision. That's the reason why they sit there and they walk circles around all of the aisles for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah,
It's
no,
because they can't figure out what they want because they got so many damn options.
yeah,
Mhm.
no.
Well, that's what it is in the dating world. They got so many damn options. I mean, you're an attractive lady,
Mhm.
so you got dudes. Dude, she showed me her text messages earlier.
I don't
I'm
want to talk
not
about
kidding
it.
you. 1,017 text messages.
Are you talking about like actual text, like
Dude,
just text message?
like
Yeah.
text messages unopened. Unopened.
It's them bikini pics.
Oh my
I
god.
know that's at least half of
A
those
man,
guys
but
aren't good subjects.
a man will never experience that unless he has tons of money.
Yeah, tons of status. Yeah, money, even money won't do it. Status is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
only
yeah,
thing
yeah,
that
yeah.
really does it. Yeah, no, that's crazy.
Mhm.
And see, that's what it just brings up what I said. Like, it's a filtering issue.
Yeah.
See, but like, I really think it's about how the woman. If you present yourself a super specific way, you
Mhm.
might have ended up with 300 messages, but those 300 would be better candidates.
Mhm.
And so like you have 1,000, but what if 70% of those are useless?
Well, yeah.
And it's just because they saw the bikini pics, they're like, oh, this is gonna be easy.
Mhm.
And then they hit you up.
Mhm.
That's like, so like y'all have a filtering issue, but you also got to present yourself a certain way, or else your filter
To
isn't
get the
gonna
better
work.
I can't
candidates,
Like
yeah.
imagine
like
how difficult it would be to be a woman.
yeah,
Like
it'd be
seriously,
crazy.
oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
no, like I definitely feel bad for women today because the filtering issue is insane. But it's also hard for men. I feel bad for
Mhm.
men too because there's so many things that are what's the word that like that's just like there's so many dopamine buttons where like you can just sit at home and play video games, or you can just there's so many they get that pornography.
I
There's so many dopamine buttons that they won't go pursue the 100 women that they have
right.
to.
Mhm.
I got a story for you. So when I started TikTok in November of 21, there was this girl that came up on my news feed or on my live feed or whatever. And so I joined it and I'm like, dang, she's gorgeous, dude. I would love to get to know that girl. And then I made another account that ended up blowing up. And then I'm live one day and she starts joining into my lives. And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of nervous now, whatever. I played it for 9, 10 months. I wasn't in her DMs. I wasn't messaging her consistently. She's gorgeous. She's getting this all the time. How do I set myself different than
Do
these
the
other
opposite.
men?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not going to give her that level of attention. And then so September comes and I'm finally talking to her. And we're talking every day, texting, calling. And I'm just like sitting here thinking, there's a little bit of ego there, right? I'm like, dude, I got the hottest girl calling me
I
right
got this.
now. I
Yeah.
got this, right? But getting to a point where you're so at peace with yourself that when you recognize that that is not the right woman for you, knowing that she is extremely beautiful, but there's more to it, and being able to call her and tell her, hey, I don't think you're the right type of person for me.
Yeah.
Getting to the point where the looks aren't that important and looking for the characteristics of her being a good quality partner for me, because I want to do what you want to do, right?
Mhm.
I want to have kids.
Mhm.
And to have good kids is to have a good partner
Yep.
that we attack life together as a team.
Yep.
And so,
You need a teammate harder than
but
ever
but
now.
you got to get to that point where you're so comfortable with, like, yeah,
Life,
you
with
like,
life and
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, you
No,
can say no.
it's
It's
super
okay.
it's super hard for I think that's once it goes back to the provisioning. There's tons of men today that aren't gonna have kids, and it's just because it's hard to get to the comfort point where you can even do some shit like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Unless you're middle class and you have a really good family to back you up. I got tons of friends who had kids or went and like got married and stuff, but their marriage was financed by their middle class parents that were able to afford it. Their first homes were bought
Mhm.
partially because of a huge down payment gift from the middle class parents. Like there's a lot of people that are falling short because they just didn't have the middle class parent background.
Mhm.
And like I
Mhm.
see it all. I was born middle class. I was born, in a very privileged home. So, but I got kicked out at 18, and that sent me into the gutter where I got to learn how normal people lived.
Mhm.
Right.
And I think that's something I like to talk about also is everybody needs to experience that. If you're born middle class, you got to go to the gutter. If you're in the gutter, you got to
Right.
experience middle class or upper class, because if you don't experience those things, you never realize those upper echelons if you're from the lower
Mhm.
class. And if you're middle class, you're so privileged, you never realize how good you got it until you fall into the lower. And
Mhm.
like, but yeah, I really believe that you can't, if you're stuck in one of the brackets, you're just stuck.
Mhm.
You really
Right.
got I've heard so many stories of people that are in the lower bracket, but then they work for somebody that's a millionaire. They do some type of job where they meet people with a lot of money. Next thing you know, they're inspired to do that.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
it's there's so many people that are never going to get that opportunity today,
Yeah.
and I feel really bad for all of them.
Look for the places you don't want to be and look up to the places where you would like to go,
Yeah.
and then strive for that.
Would you look for women at a church? That's something that's very frowned upon. I feel like sometimes.
Would I look for a woman? Like, I don't.
I personally wouldn't if I was single right now.
I think here's the thing. Like, women in the church often have this. You know, the guy. Like, I've been in hookup culture, right? Like, I'm not perfect, and a lot of women in church, to some degree, have stayed abstinent and haven't gone out and lived that type of lifestyle. Is she going to accept me knowing that I went out and did that?
She should.
Are her expectations that high? Or is she going to look at me like Jesus does? I mean, it kind of comes back to that whole thing of,
Exactly.
you know, it kind of comes back to that whole thing about what we were talking about with the ego in the church per se. Is like she has this idea that she's going to find this absolutely perfect dude.
Hmm.
How do you find there is no absolute perfect dude, and
Hmm.
I think that's the reason why I say, list out those things that are most important to you.
No, no, I agree, man. So is there a goal like age wise for you? Like, are you also with him in the fact that he's being extremely patient
Mhm.
in his goal of finding
Yeah.
like the true wife that's meant for him? Are you gonna be just as patient? Because I like to tell women, sadly, you kind of got a timeline sometimes on you.
Mhm.
Like sometimes by like that's why they call the wall at 30,
Mhm.
because once you hit 30, there's a high chance that you're not gonna get that man that
Mhm.
you really want. Do you feel like are you scared or in a rush or anything like that? Or are you kind of like, or around, is there a number? Is there 25, 26 where you're going to start being like, shit, I better start DMing more of these guys back?
Mhm.
Is there a certain, like, what do you think?
So, I mean, as of right now, I'm only 22. I still feel like I'm really young, and I'm about to start my career. So I feel like I have to be patient right now. I don't know where I'm gonna be in a year from now. I could
She could
be
be in Germany or
across the
Japan
world.
or
Yeah. So, I mean,
Especially with the army. You said the
yeah,
army is what you're going to go into for
yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, like I have no idea what the next year holds for me. So right now I'm being extremely patient, and just kind of going with the flow. But I do think that I will hit an age probably 26
That's
that
when you're around really want it.
yeah, I'm like, okay, I need to start settling down. Like I want to find someone to settle down
I feel
with.
like that's a good age. I think
Mhm.
that's when my mom had me, 26.
Mhm.
there was one thing I was thinking about that I wanted to share
Yeah.
today. Um, when we talk about a high value man, you say that the high value man is probably like 35, 40, 50,
I
somewhere
don't
in
think
there.
that they should. I see. That's something I disagree with Red Pill on. I think
Yeah,
you're not high value after 35 that much, unless you got
right.
some really good genetics and you look young.
I think this is what I add to it. Is that maybe at the 35, 40, if you have good genetics, you're a good looking dude, you've established your life and your career really well, and you're well off. great, fantastic, you're high value at that point, but not every man gets to experience that.
Yeah,
Maybe
10%.
his looks go
Yeah.
down enough to where, would you date a guy that's 40?
No.
But if you had a ton of money, would you date a guy that's 40?
Maybe if she was 30, she
Yeah, if
would.
I was older.
Okay,
She
okay.
was probably 30.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I think there's really two stages of, what's the highest likelihood that I'm going to be able to find somebody
Mhm.
is like that early 20s, because what it is seeing potential in this young man to see if he's going to eventually be successful. And so when he reaches this 25 to 35 years old and he hasn't proved himself yet, it's extremely desolate in that area. And not
Mhm.
only desolate for him in the sense of finding a woman, but also desolate for him within the church as a single man. There aren't singles groups. You go to church and all of it's like, oh, well, the kids are doing this today. It's all like family oriented group stuff, and it's never about singles.
Mhm.
And so there's this huge need within culture for that.
Mhm. Man, see, like I haven't experienced like dating like as an adult, but with the church. But usually, or used to, whenever I was young, they had like Thursday night, whenever the singles were supposed to go, I
Right.
guess. But I was young at the time; I was only 14, 15. But that was the night whenever the singles would all go to the
And
church.
there are some churches that do it,
I
but
wonder how that is. I've never experienced it, so I don't know how it really is.
right.
Like I don't know. I don't know if
So
there's a
you want
bunch
to,
of.
it's like, you want a good godly woman? Are you going to the bar? Or are you going to the singles group at church?
I mean, the big thing is that you shouldn't be going to the bar, period, to look for a girl. Like that's something I
Yeah,
preach all the
yeah,
time on
yeah.
my show. Is you better not be choosing these girls at bars and clubs because those
Right.
are especially. I don't know. Those just aren't the type of girls usually. Like, especially if they're working there. I don't know if they're just going to the club or bar. I just don't think that they're a good relationship
Yeah.
type of person. Just in my opinion. Same with dating apps. I tell guys, I preach to guys to not talk to girls on dating apps at all because I'm very organic, very all natural. Like I want you to
Yeah.
go meet the love of your life in person, and I
Mhm.
think that's gonna have a better impact on you.
Yeah.
Just go hang out at the grocery store entrance and just wait for your
Yeah,
wife to walk in.
just wait, dude. It'll happen. Yeah, just sit in Starbucks and just ask every person that walks up or something. I
Yeah.
honestly don't know. It's hard to give advice for men today.
Yeah.
It is super hard. Like I think about it all the time. I'm always like, what can I tell these young men to do? And like even you as a young girl, I bet
Mhm.
you can't even give a lot of advice because there's not as
Yeah.
you just like guys that cold approach, right?
Mhm.
That's it. That's all you can really say is guys just cold approach and try to do it at places other than the bar and club.
Yeah.
That's basically all you could do to try
Yeah.
to find a good girl.
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing is age today, and it sounds so messed up. Like as somebody that's 31 with a 23-year-old, which bothers some people. I go by the Reddit age thing, where like you cut your age in half and add 7 years. That's like my favorite model because no matter what age you do it with, it usually sounds pretty good.
Mhm.
At 50,
Unless you're 80 and she's
80,
47.
47, yeah, that's where it sounds pretty weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, that's the model I always go by. But like even then, people will discriminate, I guess you could say, or
Yeah, no
whatever,
matter what.
and say that like even that's like a bad number. But honestly, you want somebody that's young because then they're not destroyed by
Mhm.
society. The environment,
Exactly.
the environment's your destiny, and a lot
Yeah.
of
Damage,
people,
baggage, and they
yes,
carry it. They
yes,
carry it like they're going to the damn airport, dude.
Mhm.
And they're proud of it, like it's virtuous to be
to
a
be
person
damaged, yeah,
walking around with baggage.
yeah,
And it's like, I want a person that's dealt with their baggage, that understands their baggage,
yeah.
that can open that shit up and look at it intently and then be like, yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
That's a piece of shit clothing, piece
It's
of
a
clothing
very rare
or
thing.
whatever.
I want to know what you think about therapy. Do you think therapy is a good thing or like or bad? Like, what do you think?
Like in regards to like dating therapy or
Well, I mean, I feel like most of the people that got to go to therapy are probably pretty bad at dating too.
yeah,
Like they're probably going to therapy because of some mental health issue, and that mental health issue is probably keeping them from dating perfectly as well. I
yeah,
actually think a lot of people that go to therapy are because their spouse is like, "Yo, you should probably go to. I'm your best friend. I'm your
right.
spouse. Like, I care about you. I think you should go to therapy. Like, something's wrong with
I,
you. You
I
know."
I am all for somebody going to therapy. I think part of the problem in our culture though is that we look at a therapist as all knowing and they have it all together. And the advice that they're giving me to go out into my life and act upon these things, it may not always be the right advice. And to
Mm,
look at this person subjectively, I think the most important thing that people understand about therapy is your friends can be your therapist.
true.
Mhm.
And so develop quality friendships that hold you accountable and make you responsible in life because they love you. They want
Mhm.
what's best for you.
Big
But not
facts.
only that they love you, but they've been involved in this relationship
Mhm.
too. They've seen. So I have a friend that always calls me. He's like, dude, this is going on in the relationship right now. And it's always like, okay, well, I know that she feels this way because I've talked to her.
Hmm.
this is probably an approach that you need to do, and you need to set yourself aside on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who is not involved in that dynamic of the relationship may not see that.
Mm-hmm.
But me as a friend, I have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
We put so much value into a therapist and not enough value into our friends.
Yep, that's very true. Yeah, so that's one thing that could probably fix everything is if we just put more value in the friendships. And yeah, and the sad thing is the therapist, goes by the book sometimes. They're not going by what's actually, might be best for you.
Yeah,
Just going what the
and
book told them
they're
to
only
say.
able to act on what you're willing to communicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, no, it's very
I
true.
mean, I've gone to therapy before, dude. I went to 3 sessions. I'm like, yeah, that ain't for me.
Yeah, I went because I actually have a personality disorder, so I actually needed to go and like do some self finding, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So it was good for a while, and I'm very happy I went and did it. But I think I got very lucky with the therapist I went to. He
Yeah.
was a very based older man,
Mhm.
and like, but if I would have went to a younger woman, I probably wouldn't have got the same results. Like
Mhm.
they would have been telling me, no, you need to do this, and you need to do this. But
Yeah.
nah, like my old dude was based as hell. Well, guys, I really appreciate y'all coming. We're kind of getting close to 7. I got the guests showing up here soon, so I'm gonna have to close down. But we're gonna have the regular night show tonight. Sadly, they can't stay because I got some other plans. But yeah, big shout out to y'all for coming on, man. Go ahead and give yourself a shout out really quick though, so they know where to find you.
All right. Real quick, you guys, I am on
Oh yeah,
TikTok.
and last thoughts too. If you have any last thoughts too that you just want to tell everybody.
Okay. Um, y'all go shoot me a follow on TikTok. It's L Brickley Official. On Instagram, I have 2 accounts, my personal Brick34 Levy and the Pursuing Truth podcast. I'm available on all platforms. You can find me on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it, that I am there. And the same message and the same conversation that we're having tonight is the same conversation you get with 70 episodes. And
Nice.
there's so many different topics that we cover. And if you guys go listen to that, please leave me a rating and review. It's huge that I get that, because the message that I believe that I mean, it's your belief in what you're doing, right?
Yep.
Is that you're trying to change the way things currently are to make things better in
Mhm.
this culture. And
Optimism instead of pessimism.
right. And the hope is that the people that listen engage enough to push it out more so that other people are exposed to the conversations that we're having.
Butterfly effect.
And
Mhm.
so you having us on tonight, dude, like this was like when coming down to Dallas, man, I was like, we're doing a podcast, Stanley's. You don't have a choice. You're coming with me. I'm dragging you into the
Yeah,
studio
hell
with me.
yeah, man. I
And so
appreciate you.
I was extremely excited about this. I'm extremely happy to be here. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the way the conversation has gone. And I think that this podcast is going to do great. So
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you, man. No, thank you for coming. Y'all got to go follow him. And you want to give your if you want to give him your Instagram?
It's okay.
Nah,
But we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. It was really strong and insightful conversation.
good.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, as somebody that tries to give dating advice, I hope you got a little bit out of
Yeah, for
this,
sure.
instead of nothing. But yeah, thank y'all so much. Go check him out, please. And I will see y'all in like an hour-ish or less. We should have a show coming up, the regular dating night show, guys. So we'll see y'all here in a little bit. Peace.